Okay, so mapping linked genes, which is in chapter 5, and a lot of people wants to do that together. So before I even start on solving questions, let's go over the steps to mapping genes in general, linked genes in general. Step number 1, okay, I want you to figure out how many chromosomes you're dealing with. To do that, you use this equation, 2 to the power n, okay? And n here is the number of chromosomes. So number of chromosomes equals to the result of this equation will give you the number hashtag is number of parental groups. Okay, so number of chromosomes, number of parental groups. So if I have, for example, n to the power 1, when I have 1 chromosome, I will have 2 parental groups. If I have 2 to the power 2, which is 2 chromosomes, right? This is 2 chromosomes. I will have 4 parental groups. When I have 2 to the power 3, which means I have 3 chromosomes, okay? So this is 3 chromosomes. Anyways, I'll have 8 parental groups. Okay, 2 to the power 4, which is 4 chromosomes, I'll have 16 parental groups. So you get the point, okay? So by looking at the parental groups, I'll be able to tell how many chromosomes I have. So this is step 1. Step 1 is figure out how many chromosomes am I dealing with. I know you might get 3 genes, 4 genes, 5 genes, regardless of how many genes you get. Just figure out how many chromosomes am I dealing with. That's step 1. Step 2, again, by looking at the parental groups, you can determine which genes are in cis and which genes are in trans. Okay, actually, I'll make this step 3. Step 2 is figure out your parental groups and your double crossovers. So separate those 2 groups. Where is my parental group? Where is my double crossover? Then step 3 is figure out which is in cis and trans, and you figure that out by looking at your parental group. Okay, then for you to figure out the order, which gene is in the middle and what goes where, you look at your double crossover groups to figure out the order of genes. So just cross those steps. If you follow those steps in the exam, you're gonna finish it really not finish it really fast. When you practice, then you're gonna go through it really fast. So first thing is how many parental groups how many chromosomes am I dealing with? Second thing is obviously if you separate your parental groups and double crossovers, you can figure out which genes are in cis, which ones are in trans, and then figure out the order. And then number 5, obviously do the mapping. Okay, so 5 very easy steps, straightforward, and I just want you to know those steps. Okay, so let me cut this section out and let me move it to the side because I don't want to deal with this anymore. I just want to talk about the steps with you. Okay, so let's apply it to the question we have. So here they say you discover a new species of worms, and for this one, which one am I looking at? Yeah, I know that the answer. So what they're telling you is this new species of worm have 3 chromosomes inside the cell, and you're trying to figure out whether it's chromosome 1, 2, or 3, okay, that has the fat gene mutation in it, okay. And so you introduce markers on each chromosome and you make those crosses, and then the one that has least number of crossing over, okay, is the chromosome that has your mutation. And we know that if your marker is in the same chromosome as your gene, you'll have less chances of crossing over. And so this is why cross 3 is the answer, like chromosome 3. Anyways, so we know you answer that part is chromosome 3, straightforward. Then here it is. Here's the question where you have to do the mapping, okay? So first thing I'm gonna do, even though I said number 2 is figure out your parental group, it should be number 1. So here is my parental group, okay? And then here is my double crossover. So parental groups will have the biggest number. My double crossover would be my smallest number. Okay, so this is parental group and this is double crossover. Okay, and now let me figure how many chromosomes am I working with. Technically it's so obvious that I'm working only with one chromosome, but let's apply the equation. So step 1 is figure out how many chromosomes am I dealing with. So I have 2 parental groups, which means it's 2 to the power 1. I am dealing with 1 chromosome, and that 1 chromosome has one of those. I'm sorry, I should have read the questions, but I'm assuming that you already read the questions. It has those 3 traits, which is fat, let's see, heterozygous for eyeless, hairy, and fat, okay, and the other one, yeah, so eyeless, hairy, and fat. Okay, so those are the ones we're looking for. So I figured out that I have 1 chromosome. Now I'm gonna look at my parental group and figure out which ones are in cis and which one are in trans. So when I look at my parental group, so usually what you have is, you know how you have chromosomes coming in pairs, one from mom, one from dad. So, and then when you have a double crossover and all that, and when you have a crossover, it's just whatever that you didn't have on this chromosome is on the other one. I don't know if I'm making sense to you right now, but like, it's been a long day. Anyways, focusing again. So you look at the parent and you figure out whether the chromosomes are in cis or trans. So here's my chromosome, okay. Fat, eyeless, and hairy are actually in cis of each other, and the other one, the wild type one, is on the other chromosome, like opposite to it. Anyways, so I figured out that they're all in cis of each other, okay, but that does not tell me the order. For me to figure out the order, I look at the double crossover. Okay, so remember what the professor said, what the, like Dr. Lee said, she said put all of them in the middle each time, just for each one, put 1 in the middle, and then it doesn't matter what you have on either side, F and H. Okay, you know what, I need to make more space. So here is my E, here's my F, here's my H, F, H, E, H, and F, E, right? So the ones opposite to them will be the wild type. Here's my wild type. Here's my wild type. And then I perform a double crossover. So I have F crossing over going with positive, wild type trait, and then H. Okay, so this will give me FH. And then here I have my wild type crossing over, I get E, and then wild type again, so then it gives me E. So let me look at the double crossover that I have. Here it says eyeless and fat. That's not what I have. And then hairy is on its own. No, that's not the answer. So again, here, let me go to E, eyeless, crosses over, comes back up. So it's eyeless and hairy. Let me do the other possibility. It's fat on its own. Forgot to write eyeless and hairy. Okay, is that what I have in my double crossover? No, that's not what I have in my double crossover. So forget this one, forget that one. Now let's do my double crossover for this one. So I have fat. Oh, let me do it with the green one. I have fat going down, coming back up with eyeless. So fat and eyeless. And then my other crossover is wild type hairy. So I have hairy on its own. Is that what I have in my double crossover? Yes, this is what I have in my double crossover. I have eyeless and fat. Then I have hairy on its own. So now I know the order of my genes. So this is the order of my genes. Yay, perfect. And then to sort the single crossovers, what you usually want to do is look at the numbers that are close to each other. So this is what I did, and let me tell you, the first time I tried it and it was wrong. So what I did was, I was like, oh, so I have 30 here. The closest number to it is 34. And then I have 36 here, and the closest number to it is 40. So I grouped those together. That is not the case. That will not work. Why? Because let's do the crossovers together. So now I figured out the order, right? Let me do a single crossover for each one. So I know it's fat, hair, hairy or hairless? Hairy and eyeless. Fat, hairy, and eyeless with the wild type. Okay, and so let me do a single crossover. So fat will cross over and we'll have this, and then these two will cross over. So I'll have HE, and I'll have fat on its own, right? Then let me do the single crossover for E. So this is the single crossover for E. Sorry, let me do it with the same two colors I used earlier. Single crossover for E, and then here is the opposite one for it. So I have E on its own, and I have FH on the other side, right? So this is one pair and this is one pair. When I colored it based on the numbers that are close to each other, I get fat and eyeless on the same pair, and I get hairy fat with eyeless hairy on the same pair. That is incorrect. That's not what this pair is showing me and this pair is showing me. Grouping the numbers that are close to each other is usually correct. It will give you correct numbers if the numbers were like way off. Like if you had 150 and 130, and then you had, for example, a 90 and an 87, you can group these together. But because 30, 34, 36, 30, and 40 are so close to each other that when I did this grouping arrangement, it didn't work. So when you notice that those numbers here are very close to each other, it's pointless to just say, okay, I'll group 30 or 35. They're pretty close, and then 36 and 40. don't do that. Make sure when you have numbers that are close to each other that you do single crossover for each and then you highlight. So for E, right, when E is the one that crosses over, okay, I will get eyeless and I will get fat and hairy. See, it's actually 40 and 30 that went together, okay? And then when I have F is the one that underwent the cross, okay, I will have fat on its own, and then I'll have eyeless and hairy, which is what these two are showing me, right? So, and then some people go like, okay, so we know the order, which is F, H, and E. How do I know which single crossover represents the distance between H and E and F and E? Very simple. So here, when you had E was the one, sorry, let me point that. E was the one that crossed over, right? That means it will give me the distance between it and H. So this crossover will give me the distance between it and H. When F was the one that crossed over, right, and gave me those two possibilities, F and HE, okay, it will give me the distance between it and H. Okay, so I'll call this one RF1 and this one RF2, relative frequency 1 and relative frequency 2. Okay, so RF1 is this one, right? This is the first distance I went between F and H, and then RF2 is this one. These two numbers, okay? So I hope that you already wrote all this on your paper or like you were following up. So I don't need all of this anymore because we just talked about how you find it, right? So let me move this to the side, make some space, keep moving it. I'm sorry, now you're waiting for the answers. Anyways, so I'm trying to find the distance for this one, right? Let me rewrite it here. Actually, let me cut it out. Okay. So I'm trying to find the distance, right? To find the distance. I'm apologizing for this technical difficulty, but you get the point. Again, I apologize for all this nonsense that I'm doing here. Okay, so now I want to find the distance, right? Here is my RF1, my RF2. RF1 is going to give me the distance between F and G. This one obviously is between F and H, sorry. And this one is between H and E. So all I have to do is use the equation. What is the equation? The equation is relative frequency, right, is equal to single crossover plus double crossover over total times 100. Okay. So, and they already gave you the total is 1,000, so I don't even have to add up all those totals. So for distance between RF and RH, I'm gonna use let me use a different color. I'm gonna use these two numbers, right? RF1, right? So I'm gonna add 34 plus 36. This is for my first single crossover, plus 4 plus 6 over 1,000 times 100, right? And then I'm gonna just find the answer. Why am I blanking out? 70. So the answer is 8. Okay, so here it's gonna be 8. And then for the distance between H and E, see, this is the distance between H and E, this. So I'm gonna use these two numbers. So it's gonna be using this equation. It's gonna be 30 plus 40 plus 4 plus 6 times 100, okay, over 1,000. These go with these. This is 80 divided by 10. So the answer is 8. So this is also 8. Don't forget to write the units. It's map unit, map unit, map unit, map unit. Okay, so we used the 5 steps. We figured out which is cis and which is trans, and we found the map units. As simple as that. Okay, so this is the first question in terms of map units using 3 crossovers. I'll pause here and we'll solve the second question together in the next video.